We've been doing a series of topics on primarily online learning, but hopefully this can apply to face-to-face learning as well. There are a lot of principles that can go between the two. I just have more experience in online learning, so that's why I tend to say online learning more often. But today we've been doing two things. We've been doing a series on some of the kind of basics on theory and goals and objectives and those kind of things for learning. And we've also been doing these advanced sessions as well. This is our second advanced session. We looked at gamification and games last time. This time we're going to look at something called domain of one's own. We'll get into what that is in just a minute. And we'll be looking to do some other ones next year after the year starts as well. I just apologize ahead of time. I've lost my voice this last week. I had a head cold, and it's just now coming back. So if it goes out, I've got my drink here, but it's going to sound funny, especially for y'all in the back. I probably won't be able to project back there. Well, hopefully you can hear me back there. But so, okay, so domain of one's own. So the deal with domain of one's own, it came from actually educators. These were people, I believe it was the University of Mary Washington. They put together this idea. People like Martha Burtis and Jim Broom and other people put this idea together to give people the ability to create their own websites for educators. And so the idea was that instead of calling it website of one's own, because people tend to think of a website as one thing, this would be a domain of websites. You could have several different things. Maybe for several different classes, have a different type of website for several different classes. Maybe one for your blog, one for your research project. And it could all be underneath your own domain that will be your name. So they decided to call this domain of one's own. And then they got interest outside of University of Mary Washington from other educators who wanted to do this. So they decided to start their own company called Reclaim Hosting. This is kind of like Bluehost or GoDaddy or those kind of companies, but I've done GoDaddy, I've done Bluehost. Personally, I like Reclaim Hosting better. It's a little bit cheaper, a lot better customer service, a lot better setup, and we'll look at the setup in a minute. You can get individual accounts through that if you want to. They're usually about $50 a year or something like that. It's very cheap, depending on how much space you need. But also they offer a service to schools like UTA where we buy a domain of one's own for the campus. And what that does is that allows any person, faculty, staff, student to have an account through Reclaim Hosting, signing in with your UTA username and password. So our particular instance is called UTA Cloud because we found that UTA.cloud was available, so we grabbed that. And that is where you would go if you haven't been there already to create an account and create your domain for yourself. So that is what we're going to be looking at today, what that looks like, some ideas that you can use for your class.
When you said you log in with your UTA login, if you retire, you lose all these pages?
That is a good question. For people that retire or students that graduate, that is a good question. Because it's all one company, they can easily change over to a personal account, which will be, it's like $50 for faculty and even less for students, I think, former students. And I've worked with Reclaim Hosting on transferring domains and websites. They do it very quick and seamlessly and very few problems. So you can easily switch it over. You just want to do it before UTA, cancels your account, of course. But that's a good question.
Like this idea of ownership. Like this is something you own.
Yeah. And so anytime you have any questions, please feel free to jump in there. Also, I included this article in the event page, 7 things you should know about it. That's a good article to read a little bit more about it. But the main idea behind this, since Baby Yoda is the big thing today, I decided I had to jump in on the Baby Yoda theme. This is why they chose domain over website, but you also see, if you go to the web page, you see these 3 terms up there: web literacy, digital identity, and reclaiming. So the goals of this from the company is help people to learn more about web literacy by taking more control and ownership of your digital identity. If you've ever Googled yourself, I know it sounds kind of creepy and weird to some people, but actually it's kind of becoming a thing you need to do because there are a lot of companies putting out information about you out there. And if you're not Googling yourself to see what's coming up, you may be surprised. It may be good, it may be bad. But it's something that you're getting more and more often. You want to find out what's being said out there. But this is a tool where you can start taking some control over what your identity is by putting your own spin on the content or on what's out there about you. Or especially if something that you worked really hard on suddenly gets canceled or forgotten about and it goes offline, then you can put it on your website and take control of that. That's what I've done a lot with. I'll show you some of that in a little bit. And also, for me personally, one of the advantages I think is you can dive into some advanced pedagogical design. That's what we're also going to look at in this course. What can we do with this as teachers to get beyond the typical stuff that we see in classes, grades and quizzes and those kind of things, to see what kind of advanced things we can do with it. That's not on the website, but I always love to put that in there.
Okay, I have another question.
Okay.
You said grades. Are they, you said grades? Can we put grades on this?
No, you would have to still put that in
Okay.
Canvas, yeah. But this does integrate very well with things like Canvas and things like that, because you get a nice link and you can put that in there as well. So once you switch over to the web browser here, let's give you a quick tour. This is the front page. Hopefully many of y'all went there, signed up for an account. See how fast the internet is moving today. I'm moving too fast. I did sign in earlier, so it might be trying to figure out if I'm still signed in. So this will connect to your UTA account. Single sign-on in theory. Here we go. So somehow, yeah, I did get Matt as my net ID. Every time I meet someone named Matt, they're like, "Oh, it's you." How did you get that? So in theory, once you sign in, you will see a control panel. Any minute now. Part of it. Okay. There we go. Okay. So if you've ever done any web hosting, this is your typical cPanel. And this is what every person gets for every account. This is kind of for the do-it-yourselfers, the people that want to dig into the code or to the back end or to do special things. And if you start using this with faculty or students, you will find there are the students and the faculty that appreciate this, right? They really like to dig into this stuff. For most people, you probably want to do some of the one-click easy installation things. And that is here in all applications. This to me is where it kind of gets better than things like GoDaddy and Bluehost and other places. This is over 100 open source applications that you can install with one click. You have to fill in some details like where you want it to go, what do you want to be called, those kind of stuff. As you look down here, you see, there's forums, there's calendars, there's chats, there's wikis. WordPress is in there. It's probably one of the most popular ones. Omeka is in there for those of you who like do research with Omeka. What else do you have here? Stuff for hosting images. Stuff for hosting your own business. You want to do that, I guess. Photos and files, surveys, statistics, those kinds of things.
Any podcast platforms on that?
Yeah, there is in there somewhere. Podcasts. Yes, there's podcasts. WordPress does have some plugins that you can do for podcasting as well. And I believe there's something in there that works for podcasts as well. It's just kind of hard to look at this explosion of stuff on the screen, but that's a good question. The thing with podcasts, you have to be careful where you host the actual audio files, right? Because you get 10 gigabytes, I think, for these account here. So that's like
Link or embed.
Yeah, link or embed into another site. Yeah. And so this is kind of the basic setup of what you get. So say you come along and you want to do a WordPress installation. So you just click on WordPress. Gives you kind of the basics. And this is another good thing. If you're like, what is this tool? You can click on it. It gives you a little description of it. Kind of like that. It gives you a little tour of it. And then you just click the button right there to install it. So it comes up and asks you a few questions, right? You always have to get some details. It wants to know if you want to put it in a subdirectory. If you want a name for it down here, create an admin username and password. And so this is basically for any of you want to do. This is what you'll have to do is fill out a few details for it. Oh, this is important too. So when you create your account, you're actually creating a domain under your name of what you want it to look like. So back when this was underneath Link Lab, we started this service off here, and then we transitioned it over to UTA Cloud. So a lot of ours, like mine, are still under linklab.domain. You pick this part here. Usually I pick Crosslin for my name. You can pick it based on your class. You can pick it based on your favorite pet. Whatever you want to use for that, you get to pick your domain there. It's of your own, so you get to pick that. And then you start installing some of these things as subdirectories within your domain, so you can have different ones. So we'll look into what that looks like in just a minute. So that's really just kind of the basic. We'll look at some examples of what other people have done, but I want to hear what y'all think about this first off. What do you think you could use something like this for?
I used this for like 4 years. I had a new teacher kind of thing where alumni wrote blog posts and faculty. It was great. But when we had a change in administration, it just got lost and it just got obliterated. So that caused me a lot of grief. And I should have backed it up. Anyway, it's gone. And so that it's not so much the technology, it's like who's supporting it. Anyway, is it now free? I mean, I don't get it because we paid for it before. So
this is free, yeah.
What has changed?
Exactly.
Okay.
What you were talking about was an actual WordPress installation that we hosted here at UTA.
No, this was just directly through Reclaim. So this is not directly through Reclaim.
This is directly through Reclaim, yeah.
But we don't pay for it. Is that what's different now? Because we had to pay like $50 or $100.
That's an individual account versus UTA Cloud is an instance that the university pays for.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's different.
Yeah.
That was an issue. So.
Yeah. So as long as you get it transferred over or backed up before the
Yeah, that was a cause for just a cautionary tale to people.
So I hadn't heard about that. So
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay, but if it's free, I think that's better.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a bunch of super huge images because I write a book for histology, which means each image is pretty much 17 meg.
Yeah.
Is it unlimited storage almost, or will I get stuck after 2 megabytes? I mean, 2 gigabytes.
I think the limit on each account is 10 gigabytes of
Because I'm
files. Yeah.
talking with my computer
Yeah.
and the box, and like it's a big images, and I have to have them in big resolution because that's virtual Microsoft.
Yeah, usually bigger media files will probably have to be hosted somewhere else just because they have a limit
Not
for.
here.
Yeah.
There might be a way.
You can always contact OIT and ask them. I mean, I know someone who was doing a music history blog that needed more space, and they're able to give it to them.
I was gonna say David Ardidia.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, he actually just had a book that came out, but a lot of this started with his site using domains.
Is there a directory of other people's?
That would be nice. That's what I wish OIT would do.
Yeah.
They haven't yet. We need to get there. Yeah.
There are places like OU, Oklahoma
Yeah.
University.
We'll look at some examples,
Yeah.
the ones I know of at least in a minute. So I'd like to hear other people's ideas before I start showing.
Well, I think one of the things, I teach business communication, and I think it's helpful for them to communicate their brand and for the job search market or for professional development.
Yeah.
Create a web presence.
Yeah. Digital identity and web identity and yeah. Global literacy.
I think this would be a good way for us to, with our accreditation, where we have to show kind of what we've done in classes and how that's, so kind of like a portfolio for a class. We could do that in Canvas, but then when our evaluators come, they're from off campus and they can't get into Canvas to see it. So if there was some way we could store things where people could easily see, like, this is a portfolio for my class. And
Part of that.
yeah. That would be cool.
But is it visible publicly?
If you make it,
Oh, but you can keep it.
you have the choice for that on these. You know, you can keep if you do a WordPress blog, you can keep that private, password protected if you want to, because those options exist in WordPress, or you can make it open to the world. Or you also make it open to the world, but not available to search engines as well. That's an option in WordPress as well. So you can say anyone with a link can find it, but the search engines just go away. So.
Speaking of that, actually, what I've encountered this semester, which surprises me, is students now becoming more.
That's
Have you
good.
encountered that with your students in terms of wanting to put stuff out there, their content, and sort of stuff online? Do you encounter any resistance with these kind of projects?
Yeah, definitely. You just have to talk with students about that. I tend to make it to where if you have concerns, don't do this, but do realize that you do have a need to control your digital identity and have some kind of presence out there. I've had a few extreme examples where students had one student, I remember she had a restraining order against an ex-husband. She didn't want her name associated with the course, so she used a pseudonym and just created a different identity, which is probably what she would have to do, unfortunately, in that situation anyway. But yeah, so you can talk with them about identity, about privacy, and who's doing what with your data as well. This is also a goal of this is to give students more control over their data as well. So instead of putting everything into another service out there, you put it on your website. So which Reclaim still has access to, but ultimately I guess someone has access to it somewhere. But at least Reclaim, I know the people I've met, Jim Broom, and the different people who run it. They're good people. They're concerned about privacy as well. So they have committed to protecting privacy. And they're not making it rich like Facebook or someone who's going to be tempted to give it away someday. So hopefully, at least, never know.
I have a quick question, maybe an elementary question, but once you have your domain and you have several websites, you can restrict those websites. You don't have to give the whole cloud thing.
No, and it depends on what tool you're using as well. WordPress does have some good tools in it to restrict it to just password protecting it or certain accounts you can give out. Well, you want something that only faculty look at, say within your department, right? To look at this one website and collaborate on it, then you just give them all an account to it, and only those people with those accounts can view the website. So, and that's kind of on a tool by tool basis. I don't know if like Omeka has that or something. WordPress does have that. Some of the other tools in there do as well. There's also Moodle in there and stuff like that. You can also install Moodle. That's password protected in the courses, but I don't know why necessarily want to do that, but so it just depends on the tool. All right. So I'm going to get to some of the examples of students who have used this in different places. All these examples are in the PowerPoint presentation, which I'm going to put available on the website, or if you want to go come back and look at these. So first idea, as we talked about, is students doing their own work in here and sharing it online. So here's some examples of some student work that has happened, how they've shared it online. This is a student that actually did a survey about the First Amendment among family and friends, and they wrote up a report and put it on, basically, I believe it's the WordPress blog. Yep, this is a WordPress blog. So this is kind of your basic use for your students. They do something and they put the report up there, and that report can be shared in a portfolio. It can be shared with future employers. It can be indexed by search engines if they want to. It can become part of the global conversation. Or you can just password protect it and just share it with the professor, especially if you're talking about a more sensitive topic that they may not want out there. That could be a way to do that as well. Then we have, found this interesting, the Chinese literature today. They had students put together an entire online magazine. So, and this is their current issue. This is from the Oklahoma University. So this was obviously a group project between several students, but this is kind of one of the bigger projects you could have several students working on. This is someone who put a game together, kind of simulating the rigorous process for refugee entry in the U.S. People have some confusion over what the process looks for refugees to come in. So they put together basically a game on here. I don't even know what they built this in, but but anyways, basically kind of a choose your own adventure game to go through it. And so I say, how can I help you today? I'm afraid to go home, want to leave the country. So you can put together a big simulation. So then, think about it. You mentioned about putting all the student work together in one place, right? So we've done some work with some of the courses that we've taught here, some of our MOOCs, where we have these learner hubs, where all the work from all the learners get filtered into one hub for all the learners, so that you can see what different learners are doing. This is one way we did it. There are different other ways you could do it, but basically this is a blog that pulls in all the other blog posts from the other students who are taking this MOOC, the Open Education MOOC. And so basically I just use these students' avatar, and it leads to the different posts that they've done. So we have reflections, you've got work in here. When you click on it, it goes to their website. Oh, that blog has been removed. Well, that's not fun.
Is that automated or you had to do it?
I just set it up and then it became automated once it was set up. So that's the fun though. Some of these are a few years old, so sorry if it's a little broken. So we also did one for the yoga MOOC. You can see people reflecting on their time in the MOOC here. Hopefully some of these will work. So yeah.
I got lost on the squares.
Mhm.
So the blogs of these people that they created put into.
The central blog, yeah. It's kind of like a hub for the work. And so you can see this is one of the person's reflections on mindfulness. Mindfulness training was one part of that MOOC as well.
That has a great post on. I don't know if you're showing about how.
Yeah, it's one of the, this blog post actually goes through the steps of how to create one of these. This looks like this just because of the theme that I chose through WordPress. You could make it look different. You can actually put the student posts up front and center on the web post page if you want to, but I have a whole blog post, and this is in the slides as well, how to set up one of these learner hubs, like what you just saw. So it goes through the technical steps of how to do that. Stuff like this takes a little bit more tinkering behind the scenes, but if you're willing to do it, you can put it together, and I'd be glad to help you with it as well. So since I've done it, I know a few tricks about how to get around it. Let's see what else we have here. Okay, so those are two examples of kind of student hubs.
Can I ask a quick question about, so when they create a blog like that, let's say, one of the advantages of Canvas, and maybe there's already a link to Canvas, but I'm wondering, like, how would you assess or sort of comment on content in there? Is there a tool, or how do you generally sort of evaluate these?
I just create an assignment, and then they submit the link to their blog post into the assignment, and Canvas will pull it up in the grade.
And are you allowed to sort of comment on the page then while you're reading?
It'll comment within Canvas. Yeah.
Can they embed the blog into a discussion board so it's visible in some way?
If they know how to do the code, yeah. The iframe code.
Not an easy way that they would figure out.
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of easy, but I don't know about their students. They might not like it. They could put the link in there. I don't think Canvas does it, but some tools will automatically pull the whole web page once you put the link in there, right? I don't think Canvas does that. This in the forums. But other places I've noticed, if you put, like you know, in our Outlook and our email accounts now, if you put some type of link now, it puts the whole web page there now. So that's becoming more of a thing. It'd be nice if they did it there as well. But if you look up HTML iframes, I don't know if that's allowed in forums or not, but if it is, then that's one way they could do it. Oh, that's a good question. So another way people use this is to create their course content pages or course pages of some kind of announcements or something on a web page. This is, I actually teach courses for the University of Texas at Rio Grande Valley. I'm an adjunct faculty with them. So this is one of my courses. It's all in WordPress. And so they've had the problem with Blackboard going down, with switching to LMS, that kind of stuff. So they just decided years and years ago, they're putting all their content into WordPress blogs. And then whenever something goes down or changes, they've still got the link there, right? So this is just what, a course within WordPress could look like. You have your syllabus, your schedule, resources, instructor information. Justin also used, our, this is through the domain of one's own, right? Or what class is this for? You're reading, sorry. Who's
World
reading,
Civ
Justin? Yeah.
This
online.
one, two different versions. The earlier courses would have been the history survey, US survey, and then World Civ.
So this was pulling in different, like updates were in here and student work.
That blog, who wrote that post?
I did.
Oh,
This
cool.
one? Yeah.
Pretty sure that one.
Was that for your students? to read?
Or maybe I share, it depends.
Who was that
This is
for?
me. And
Oh, that's Matt's then.
Oh,
somehow I got pulled in there.
oh.
No, I pulled that one for,
I'm sorry.
Did your students read that or what?
it's been a while since I've been there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Students went there. I actually had them go. This was my hub. I had them come here first. I had my syllabi. Did it in sort of a visual manner.
Is it still accessible?
Broke things up.
Still accessible.
Want to go through.
Let's see, visual syllabus. There you go.
I'll say you notice this semester is 2168, so I don't know what's the topic for us, but I broke things up into sections and try to make things a little more visual where I could. And some lessons learned that from the research that Matt and I did on our self-map learning pathways.
Yep, so this is one through our own UTA cloud here.
Yeah.
Let's see. This is one from University of Oklahoma. This is international trade, world economics. They kind of just put everything into one, continuous wall of text there. But you see there's a lot of sources there. Away that. Oh, okay. And so, go away. I don't like that thing right there. Okay. So another thing that I'm a fan of are assignment banks. And this is another tool that you can put together through this service, is this idea of, excuse me, you have a lot of different students with a lot of different goals in your class. Some may be doing it because they're a major, some maybe because of electives, some that wants to go into this business, some that wants to go in this area. And so how do you come up with assignments for all of them? Well, one of the ideas that people have come up with is have an assignment bank where they have different types of ways that they can meet the assignment. They give a general instruction and say, this is your project for this month. Excuse me. But you get to choose how you're going to fulfill that assignment, whether it's going to be visually, audibly, through the web, through design. So this is what came in through a MOOC. So they've had thousands of learners contribute, hundreds of learners contributing thousands of ideas here. But basically, they have all these different ideas in here for what different ways that learners can meet the assignment. And so this is all built in WordPress, and this, just different apocalyptic photo journal, 5-frame story, your favorite photo. I mean, there's all kinds of ideas in here. Oh, Iron Man, what's he doing? The life of a superhero. So
I have a question about this assignment bank. What application did you use to do it?
this is in WordPress.
What?
Yeah. So, but this is, you can use any content management system you wanted to put together just different pages of information. So this one has a special tool, a web assignment bank theme.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so it puts it together and pulls together all the assignments to it as well. So,
But I've done it in a lot of different ways too in our learning.
Yeah.
I mean, I like this one. I just
Yeah, that's
don't
very
want
pretty.
to do all the graphics and moving the stuff. So if there is a template.
yeah.
Yeah, Alan Levine's a little more technically proficient than I am, but he's the guy that did this. But yeah, I did it in Blackboard.
Yeah.
Just giving students the same option of having a sort of a common rubric to look at an assignment. So it doesn't matter if they created a graphic novel or if they did a claymation video or write a newspaper spread or let them do it anyway. You can be invested in it just as long as you hit the different objectives. So that you understand the content. That's on me. So I would say on my end, if the people that did it really got excited about it.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah.
They
Once
loved
they
it.
finish, they're excited.
I had one person that I remember telling me they spent 20 hours on their assignment that shouldn't take it anywhere near that long. They're like, I just loved it that much. I had this background. I had been been working in advertising for JCPenney, and I had all this experience. So I was going to put my time and energy into this. It was worth it. And they got really excited and wanted to show it to everybody. So, fun stories like that.
Oh yeah, and you say graphic novel because someone actually did a graphic novel for you, right? Yeah. Yeah. So, is that the 20-hour one or?
No,
one?
it might have been, yeah.
But some of your students did host it in the UTA Cloud
Yes.
tool, yeah. So,
Yes.
The UTA Cloud gives them a lot more tools to put together other things, websites and other things to meet these different ideas. So this, like I said, this is a incredibly deeply developed assignment bank. Most people I see start with maybe like 6 options in there, because that's a lot of time to design all these. And the also thing is this one is open for students to submit new ideas. That's where a lot of them came from. So that's kind of a, depending on the students in your course, that might be a little tricky to do that, but you would be surprised at some of the ideas that some of them will come up with for it. You might not say that you're going to take all of them, but you might be open to taking some student suggestions and then take some of the really good ones. So they will come up with some really good ones. So we also, I wish that thing would go away. Let's see. So we also talked about personal profiles. I go through Reclaim Hosting as well. This is where I do my personal website. This is my website, mattcrosslin.com. It just serves as kind of a splash page for all the things that I do. Justin just mentioned Alan Levine. This is actually a theme that he came up with. So I took the picture behind it in India, but the design itself was from him. And so this just goes through and shows all the different things that I could do. So if you can see, this is a bit more robust than some of your Mentis and other tools. While those are good, and you can put a lot of good stuff on there, stuff like this gets you a little bit more control of what people see. So, for example, I'm in control of my CV here. It looks totally exactly what I want it to look like. So, but I also keep a lot of old stuff here as well. So since it's a domain, I keep a lot of the old stuff that I worked at. When I was an 8th grade science teacher in 2001, this was my class page that I put together for one of my first web pages I put together. And so this is where students could come, and if they had missed, they find out what they missed. They wanted to, current unit. They wanted to play some games, get some extra credit. This is put a lot of stuff online for them. Stole a lot of images from NASA. Luckily, they put those open source. So, but the hosting service of this went away decades ago. So, but I kept a copy of it. And so this is one of the domains within my main website is this older stuff that I keep out there. Sometimes just for memory, but somewhere in there, I've got some worksheets that I'm going to put out that I used back in the day that I created. So be open source for some teachers to use. So, and this is just one of the things you can do with having your domain. It's having all these different websites in it underneath your one name. And then here's Justin's website. Yep, that's okay. So's mine. So his is you open up kind of with his blog on the front page, and you can see some of the thoughts that he's blogging. You can dig into the about me and some of his digital teaching and learning and history stuff, work that he's done in the past as well. So yeah, some blog posts there. This is a professor from Oklahoma University. As you see, it starts off, there's just a different way for hers to look. She talks about her different courses that she teaches, the research that she does. So this one kind of looks a lot like Mentis, but it just has a bit different being put around it. But also, we had mentioned students earlier. So here's one student's portfolio. This is a Architecture and Urban Planning Master of Landscape Architecture candidate. So you see from hers is a lot more visual, right? So just think about her going on the job market with something like this. I mean, that's,
So are they using that in architect? I mean, who on this?
This is from Oklahoma University.
No, I know,
sorry, yeah.
but it made me think, who on this campus is using this specific tool?
Not many.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to get the word out.
What are they using? I'm just curious.
For portfolios?
Yeah,
or-
art or architecture.
And that's also
I don't know what we're
WordPress.
doing.
This one I think is WordPress as well, yeah. Waiting for it to come up.
This has like the old K20 stuff.
That's not even a portfolio. It's like a folder.
It's like a folder sort of thing.
So what was
I really want, I have a class when everybody's doing a project, very visual, but
Mhm.
I'm still really confused how I can put together a page when students see each other projects. Like when I have 100 projects, like they're not going to remember each other's names, so I have
But you can make a little whole.
I don't know if you can do a blog roll on these.
Yeah, you can. You can make a list on a page of the different links to the websites.
We have a hub site.
Nobody will read it.
Yeah. You want the pictures?
No, like I want it so clickable, like almost application screen, because if I put a role with 100 students in a class, they're going to read the last 3, but not all.
Well, I mean, you can change maybe the way you approach it. Do they have to look at all of them, or could you have them in chunks too, like where they could look
Well,
at?
they can look at child. I mean,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, like
you know, that's a learning
sure.
experience. Look what your peers did. They should have a choice, but
Yeah.
by not providing nice interface, because theoretically they can do it in Canvas, yes, and nobody does it except when I force them to do, like make a peer review and give 5 points, because
enough
the
differences?
speaking and stuff is very.
Enough differences between the assignments where you could do stuff like keywords or things that might help also have people have interest about, okay, I want to look at this one, because
Yeah.
I searched this term. And
Yeah, so I'm more concerned about me presenting
Yeah.
pages to them than them searching for something right now. Like, how can I present it in appetizing way?
Oh, that's what I mean, like the ability to search for like a certain page, like that might be able to help you narrow things
Well,
down.
I think you're thinking of the theme, the way the page looks. Yeah, and that's the good thing with WordPress, which is one of the tools available in here, is that there are thousands of themes. You would just have to find one that looks like you would want to, and then you're probably wanting the web pages themselves to be more of an image or graphic, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
kind of like, I think a lot of little icons looks nice because that's
Yeah.
what I use on a screen
Yeah.
like that.
And there are different WordPress plugins. I know there's one for a website preview. If you put a link there, I just put a preview of the website in place of the link. Like sometimes if you put a tweet in there, I'll put the tweet itself in place of the link, or the YouTube video in place of the link, and that kind of stuff. So you would just want to look through the different WordPress themes and find one that would fit a bunch of pictures on it, right? Because some of them are pretty thin, right, and text oriented, but some of them are wider like hers. So yeah, you just want to look at themes for something like that. So yes.
In general, I'm wondering how your experience with these kind of like what I'm seeing is just really polished stuff, and obviously you're showing us the best. I'm sure
Right.
the best, but how digitally literate are our students to sort of pull off an assignment like this? Or how much time would we have to take out of class to kind of teach this content creation?
You probably need to spend some time. Yeah, I found them all be all over the place. In the courses that I teach, since they are educational technology courses, we kind of require them to be able to figure these things out on their own, which causes some stress. By some, I mean a lot. But but that is one of the requirements. They do come to me with questions, and I try to answer them. But then I have some students that are off on some obscure tool that I've never heard of. I'm like, I can Google that for you. That's
What resources does the university have then to help them with this, let's say, something like this? I know if they have issues right now, I can send them to the library for sort of writing assistance or other kind. Is there digital assistant labs or sort of places they can go for help in creating an assignment like this?
For some of it, you can send them to OIT, especially if it's WordPress related. They will know a little bit. For this specifically,
That LinkedIn Learning has videos on.
they do have
some
this
of-
help tab here on the UTA cloud, and there's a whole system of help documents back there, especially if there's stuff on WordPress or stuff on Mika. This is managing your domain, the installation screen they call Installatron because they have a very 80s theme to everything. The Reclaim Hosting does. They name all of their servers after 80s post-punk bands. So about WordPress on Mecca, that's a nice question. So there is this here where you can start off with. And
one thing is that hot survey courses, I learned very quickly what the pain points were, and I scaffolded. I put content in my course, including small little micro learning video type of things. Like, here's how you do this sort of stuff. Do you want to do installation? Click the click, and then if you need to be able to do this on your domain. And it was a couple hours worth of work and cut hours of emails out of my life. Just little things. It doesn't have to be a whole lot.
You tell your students to just go to whatever search engine you like, type in WordPress, and then whatever question you have, no matter how weird, obscure, whatever you think it is, you'll be surprised at how many answers you'll get. Actually, you'll probably have to teach them how to find the right answer out of like 4 or 5 that aren't so good, but yeah. I mean, because these are well used, some of them are a bit obscure on here, but some of these are very well used open source things like WordPress. There's a lot of tutorials out there. So it kind of becomes the other problem of how do you help them find the right ones, right? So. But again, also, if you start getting the same questions over and over again, you can also do your frequently asked questions as well. So, the other thing we mentioned was research. Some people have done some research projects on there. This is one through the Oklahoma University, their 4-year research engagement program, FIRE program. So to help undergrads learn through, this is just a landing page with information about it. Other people have used Omeka to put together some research projects. This was one. This is kind of, they use Omeka to show off their research from an exhibit. This is about some, I believe, some materials they dug up from 100 years ago, and they kind of followed through where the people were traveling. This family, I believe. And then this one is one that goes through some of the lab materials of and the lab results of a digital history lab. I remember what this is. Oh, policy issues in Oklahoma. So this is where they did some research on policy issues in Oklahoma and created, this is in Omeka as well, created a website that displays what they found as if they were researching that. So that was most of the examples that I had of some of the things that are out there. And these are no way to say this is all that you can do with it. There's just a lot of other things you can do with it as well. These were just some of the ones that I found recently.
All right, so you can get personal website on UTA Cloud as long as you're employed.
Yes.
But it's not on the university.
Yep. It's as long as you're employed here. Yeah. And
Faculty,
then-
staff, and students.
Faculty, staff, and students. Yeah. But once you're not here anymore, before you
migrate.
migrate and start paying. Yeah. So. And I did that. They migrated they actually migrated me also from stuff from Bluehost very easily as well. I thought I would lose a ton of stuff, but they were able to migrate it all over, even stuff I hadn't updated for like 7 years. So I was surprised it was like still working. Wow. So. All right. Any other questions? I know people have class, so that's fine. Yeah. Question?
Not to belabor this, do you know of anybody who's like really sore with this that besides y'all? I guess Kim or whoever.
Kim, David Arditti,
Oh,
Alex Honeycutt,
Alex Honeycutt.
what's he doing?
history, he's using with the students.
Okay.
Using the blog primarily.
Trying to remember. We had several people come talk to us, but I don't know if they actually then went and did it or not. So it was a lot easier when I had the admin controls myself. I could go in and look stuff up. But
We piloted it here for about a year.
yeah.
We feel like we lost.
So I'm feeling kind of lost.
Okay.
And I'm telling you why, because I'm thinking loud, so sorry.
It's
Taking time to ask question. It looks like most of the assignments that I have seen so far, they are more like blogs, or creating some kind of website. Are there any examples of things related to like science fields? They're like problem-based things where these things can be used. I know your course is technology itself, right? Technology
That's a good
literacy,
question, yeah.
right? So my question is, how is this? I'm pretty sure there will be answer, but at this time, I am just thinking in my mind loud. How can I make it useful, or how would it be useful for my classroom? Let's say, put it in a short way. And I do not know. I could not visualize it in my mind, so maybe you can help me.
So for you said lab type?
No, a
Assignments
lecture, regular lecture, but it's more like, let's say, problem-based, concept-based.
Mhm.
and I don't do blogs. I give them more other
Yeah.
things to do.
Yeah, these tools I notice are heavily used for blogs, and they do need to break kind of out of that mindset.
There are 120 tools. We don't know them all.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of options.
I think if you're talking about problem-based learning, there's the game we looked at earlier that could be set up to create some thinking through different problems. If you need students to collaborate around certain things, there could be wikis or discussion forum tools as well. Those exist, of course, in Canvas, but if you don't like the ones in Canvas, these would be some other options. So students could collaborate around that. And sometimes with problem-based learning, usually with problem-based learning, I just see kind of generally you see the result, right? The project that they came up with while they're working through the results. So that's where something where you put these tools in the students' hands and say, if this works for you, here's some places where you could put your group report or something as well. Maybe. Thank you.
One more question. Are you you showed us a game. You're sending this information out on PowerPoint, right? Or are you going to have it somewhere available?
Yeah, I'm post the slides up on the page.
The question I have is about the game. You just mentioned the game app. If we taught them or sort of had an assignment where they created a game, what app or what platform do they use to create this?
The one that I mainly use is called Twine. Twinery.org, I think, is the website for that. It's more of a text-based kind of choose your own adventure type gaming system. But that just exists on that website, and you actually put the game together. It stays in your browser itself. Actually, it doesn't go anywhere else. That's the one I've used. I'm not sure what he had used for that game that was up there. I need to dig into it.
But if we access it, we can kind of figure out.
Yeah. And I've seen people put games together in WordPress, just put a bunch of pages together with different links to different ones as they wanted people to choose their own venture. So, I mean, there are different ways of doing it.
These sessions are really helpful. One suggestion I would maybe have, and maybe too much work, but if you guys had a canvas of these sessions and you had a module for each session that we're having, we were invited to that. Not even a lot of content that you put in, just these PowerPoints so that we have a whole record of it, and maybe even just a discussion board in each module so that we can come in and discuss amongst ourselves best practices or something. That would be a really great community if we could have something.
We do have teams, some channels and teams where I've created for these different sessions that we've had as well. And we put the resources go up on our website, so I put the links to that in there as well. As far as the discussion angle, we do have some groups and teams if you want to join those. They're not very active, but just like
one canvas of all.
We actually do have this Canvas instance for the center that we use.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, that's something we can talk about.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. No, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Rather than me going to the website and downloading, and it's just not as. It's not happening.
That's fine.
But I can easily, because I'm in Canvas every day, go to Canvas and look at it and see, have a backup. Oh, what did I miss? What's going on? Just a thought.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
What is the site for the lab or for the center? What's the website that we can access this?
Our website is linkresearchlab.org. And if you go to the events calendar, you'll see events on there. The past events are the ones in the past. So. This one's still on the current one. So awesome.
Are you doing this workshop in the spring?
We'll probably do some other ones. I don't know if.
I mean, overarching. Advanced.
Get more deep.
Yeah. Well, if we don't go too much deeper, we might just have like two people here. You know, kind of the crowd size goes down.
Narrow.
The hardcore.
Thank you for coming. Yeah.